Let me answer your second question first and your first question fourth and your non-asked question seventh. Hey-o! As Harry Nilsson once sang, 1 is the loneliest number. But this episode is 111. That's 111 of the Promo UPFront Podcast. So nobody should feel alone.
Absolutely.
I'm one of your hosts, Bill Petrie. With me, as always, let's call him the Field Marshal of the Federal Trade Commission, the one and only Kirby Hasseman. Kirby, how in the mid-August are you?
That's a great question. I am doing really well. Lots of good things going on in my life. You and I have talked offline about a bunch of that going on. Some big news. My daughter's getting married soon. My other daughter's moving to Colorado. There's just all kinds of goings on in the Hasseman abode, and all good, but they all cause a little bit of stress. And so, but it's a good stress. So I'm doing well. How about you, bud?
I'm doing great. Hold on. Can you hear that? That's silence because my kids are back at college. Woo! That's right. I've got my house back. I got my office back. I'm kidding. Joking aside, the last week we did move both Drew and Mitch into their respective living situations at Mississippi State and Alabama, and it was fun. It was taxing. It was the drives were a little tough, but they started school this week, and hard to believe they're already sophomores.
Crazy.
So pretty exciting there. It's always exciting to see family do what they want to do, and that got me to thinking, Kirby. Recently we talked about how important it is to have stability in a business partner, and I really love that discussion. It's one of the many reasons that I love that our friends at Shepenko are sponsoring our podcast today. Talk about family. We just talked about family and doing things. They've been in business since 1933 and are still a fourth generation family owned and operated that still sells exclusively to promotional products distributors. You don't stay in business that long without doing things the right way, Kirby.
Totally.
Doing what they say all the time, delivering quality merchandise at a fair price, always going the extra mile for their distributor partners, and truly caring about the success of their clients. These, and so many other reasons, are exactly why Shepenko just won the Supplier Family Business of the Year at the ASI Council Awards. Kirby, I know you pay attention to the suppliers you work with. You're pretty picky about it, which I really respect about you. And stability is a big part of why you choose to partner with a particular supplier.
Yeah, I've said many times that we are in the business of making promises for other people. And so when you are in that business, you want to do business with people who keep their promises. And, that points to stability. And the idea that you have been in business for 4 generations as Shepenko is just incredibly hard and incredibly impressive. So kudos to them.
Absolutely. Such a great group of people. I couldn't agree more, Kirby. When it comes to a supplier that truly cares about your success, you'd be hard pressed to do better than Shepenko. And if that weren't enough, and gosh darn it, it should be, when you put the code Shepenko22 on your next order, Shepenko is going to hook you up for 10% free goods or free ground shipping, your choice. Or you can just email Alex Smoltz directly at alex@shepenko.com, and he's going to hook you up with random samples and the aforementioned free goods. So you want to see all those amazing products, head over to shepenko.com. You're not going to be sorry you did. Now, Kirby, I want to thank you for having and really displaying such courage this morning in broadcasting in such a humid, warm environment that we have here in August. I know you've got a white hot promo topic to start our podcast with. In fact, I can't wait to hear it. I'm going to now shut up. Would you please tell us what that topic is?
Oh, okay. Well, that's a hell of a buildup. So the big headline this week was, speaking of stability, Tri-Mountain, supplier that's been in business since 1993, is set to close their doors. It's a California-based supplier, been in operation for almost 30 years. and just immediately, like, it was one of those where you get I get so many emails, by the way. This is sort of a side tangential
Yeah.
conversation. So many emails that say breaking news, and I look down at them and I'm like, oh, who gives a shit? But this one was one of those moments I was like, oh, that's actually breaking news. That was actually a big deal. And so
Kind of a humble brag there with how many emails you get, but that's okay. You're important.
Yeah, I think I just signed up for a lot of emailers. But this was a big deal, I thought. And I was obviously sad to see anybody close their doors. Certainly sad because, the folks that I know in the industry, multi-line reps, specifically Kurt and Kyle McGovern, are two of my favorite multi-line reps, and they rep Tri-Mountain. So that was the first thing I thought. I was like, oh no, for them. But I had two questions for you, and then I want to get your thoughts on this. So one of the things it said on the announcement, that was a couple days ago, it said Tri-Mountain will continue to accept orders through Thursday, August 18th.
Right.
Which
2-day notice.
Yeah. Well, yes. So 2-day notice. But my question is, why the hell would you still send them an order if you know they're closing? And
Right.
second, and I think this is obvious, but I want to get your take. Why close down? In this world of mergers and acquisitions, why not sell? They had to have tried to sell, right? So those are my questions.
Yeah. So let me answer your second question first, and your first question fourth, and your non-asked question seventh.
Okay.
So to answer your second question first, I don't think there was a buyer. I had to believe that they probably approached all the companies we can think of that where that brand
That would
fit,
make sense.
and there were no takers. That had to be my guess.
Yeah.
As far as sending orders to them, I'm not sure I would. I thought it was the most bizarre thing I'd ever seen in terms of not closing the doors, not going out of business. That happens, and it's awful. And
yeah, that's a bummer.
Like you, my promo heart goes out to everybody who people are losing their jobs and all that. So I don't want to be flippant about that. But to say, hey, it's Tuesday and give us your orders till Thursday. It's all good. And hey, if you have orders in house, don't worry about them. It's going to be just fine. It reminds me of Kevin Bacon at Animal House when the band is running amok and he's like, remain calm. Everything is just fine. So I don't know. I wrote down a couple notes because I was planning on bringing this up had you not. Like I said, what I think is going to happen, Kirby, I think they tried to find a buyer. No one wanted to. And now that they're going out of business at that price, I think someone will buy the brand name, the remaining inventory, and roll it into their line at a much more palatable price for that acquiring company. So I think the assets are going to be acquired. But what I thought was interesting, because I remember during the peak of the supply chain issues, let's call it July of last year, when it seemed like there were 790 container ships floating in the middle of the Pacific Ocean, couldn't find places in port. A lot of suppliers, almost every supplier, had to raise their prices.
Yeah.
Tri-Mountain, and they've always been a little on the higher side anyway, not a criticism, but they've always had a little more expensive price structure. They came out and said, hey, we're not raising our prices. We are flat out not raising our prices, which very bold move. And I remember, I think we even talked about it at the time. And I wonder how much that impacted this, that they didn't raise their prices, that maybe they continued sales level wise, revenue wise was fine, but profitability started shrinking.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know if that was a contributing factor. Like I said, I was really surprised that there wasn't a Hit Promotional Products or Alpha Broder or PCNA. Someone had absorbed them. So I do think in the coming days you'll see something, but it clearly didn't come together to the point where they could remain in business.
Yeah, like I said, it's a bummer, and like I said, we don't want to be flippant about it, but it was the big news, and so whenever a business closes, and I have this conversation with this much smaller businesses, local businesses, and actually had this conversation with my daughter, Jade. Jade, as I mentioned, is moving to Colorado. So she had started a business and she just recently sold it. But I remember when this first conversation started, she was like, well, I just have to close down my business and leave. And I was like, whoa. Like, you at least got to test the market and see if there's a buyer out there. And she found a couple interested parties. And it was like, I'm always intrigued by people who don't do that, or at least from the outside looking in, it looks like they don't do it. I'm sure there's conversations behind the scene, but that was one of my first thoughts.
My last thing I want to add to this. really damaging to the brand. If someone does end up buying Tri-Mountain, I think you're going to have some real resistance for a long time for people to trust that brand. Unfortunately, let's say they go to PCNA or Alphabet,
Where
doesn't matter. I think people have a problem with the name Tri-Mountain now, and that's a shame because it had a really good name, really good reputation, great products, great merchandise. So it's really a shame how it all went down. But I think my sense is that was the only way it could go down.
Sure. And it is funny you say that, because man, people in our industry do have a long memory about things
They do.
like that. So yeah, that'll be interesting to see.
Kirby, I still hear people, I don't want to say complaining, but referencing the Halo bankruptcy and how they got screwed 20 years ago when most suppliers got paid about 60, 70, 80 cents on the dollar, which is amazing in a bankruptcy. Usually it's 2 to 3 cents on the dollar. So you're right about that long memory. All right, Kirby, let's keep it in the promo world as we amp up the podcast. That's right. Hey, distributors, is your marketing working? If you can't answer definitively, oh, hell yes, it is, Billy Boy, then you got yourself a problem, and you need to reach out to our good pals over at Promo Pulse. They can help you consistently amplify your sales through stunningly beautiful outbound marketing that's so easy, you can customize it, set it, and forget you even did it with even 5 minutes. With 5 minutes, that's it. So you want to learn more? Of course you do. Go over to promopulse.io/amp. All right, Kirby. Like I said, I feel amped up now. Let's keep it in the promo world. I don't know if you saw this. This comes from our good pals over at Promo Marketing.
Okay.
The FTC, the Federal Trade Commission, which you are the field marshal of apparently, has fined the apparel brand Lions Not Sheep for false Made in the USA labels.
No, I didn't see this.
Okay. So they fined the company for replacing Made in China labels with Made in USA labels. They fined them about $211,000. An interesting part of the ruling, is this quote: any qualified Made in the USA products need to include clear and conspicuous disclosure about the extent to which the product contains foreign parts, ingredients or components, or processing. A little bit of gobbledygook there, but let me break it down. So part of the crackdown is on these false Made in the USA claims is under the Buy American plan that President Biden signed into law, I think, last year. And it requires marketers making unqualified Made in USA claims on product labels to prove that their products are, quote, all or virtually all made in the USA. And so I'm looking at this, I'm thinking, man, this is a big blow for our industry, because it's one of those things, it's the law of unintended consequences, right?
Okay.
I understand the intention behind the Made in the USA Act. It should, if something's made in the USA, it should say that. If it's something made in China, it should say it. What we've always argued, and when we've gone to Capitol Hill, I've done it many, many times with LEAD, we would advocate, while a lot of the merchandise might be actually manufactured in China, the value of it is added here in the United States with the decoration.
Yeah.
This, because the way the law is written, that doesn't seem to apply. I'm not a legal scholar. I'm speaking a little bit out of thin air here, as opposed to thin hair. But it just seems to be kind of a blow for promo. And that seems to be dead now. The whole we enhance the value of it with decoration. So I wanted to ask you, what does Made in the USA mean to you now, given that ruling? It made versus decorated or value enhanced?
Yeah. Again, I didn't read this article, so I'm hearing it for the first time. So I'm kind of, just give me a little bit of grace on my commentary. A lot of grace here. I would say, I'm not sure it applies. And what I mean by that is, if you actively take a Made in China label on it and then actively put a Made in the USA, like, you're lying, and you're doing that 100%. On purpose. And so 100%. That part is, to me,
that's black and white.
Yeah. And so, like, I'm like, yeah, okay. You clearly were trying to manipulate and mislead. And so, yeah, I get why there was some consequences for that. That makes sense. And so, to me, to your point, then back to that, is to say, I don't know that this deals a blow toward that. I think that is something we need to evolve as an industry on describing, right? And I think that
100%.
like it's great that you guys are doing that when you go to Washington through the LEAD initiative. But I don't think I'm doing that. I don't think most distributors, salespeople are doing that on a regular basis.
Right.
And I don't know that we have the common language that we need to do it consistently, right? Like, so is it, oh, well, no, it's made in China, but it's decorated here. How do we, and maybe that's a like I've said that the idea of elevating the industry is a great initiative for PPAI. Maybe this is something that could be a down the road project, because I do think that there is a manipulated in the USA.
There is.
Yeah, something. There's a term there that's waiting to be had that I think we could say and be honest about saying.
Right.
And that, you know what I mean? Then so the idea that they're ripping a label off and putting on a different label doesn't seem
100%
like
wrong.
Yeah, that was
that's
does that make sense? I don't know if I
it does. No, it does. I think you hit on something. It's the common language. Is what can we agree on? Is it enhanced in the USA? Is it value added, which is kind of what we've always explained? And I really started thinking about this because I wanted to talk about this topic, and you know me, and you and I are very much the same way on this. I don't like talking about a problem without finding some sort of solution.
Yeah.
And as I was drinking out of a piece of drinkware from our industry, the answer was right in front of me. It was a Hirsch gift piece of drinkware. And it was one of their Patriot things. And on the bottom, it says in very big letters, designed in Houston. And in very small letters, made in China. And I'm like, that's the solution right there.
Okay.
It's that Apple approach, designed in Cupertino, made in China. I think that helps a lot in terms of clarifying this. This is an idea, the design, the imprinting. You could even say decorated in Houston,
I was gonna say,
or whatever
designed
you wanted
and
to.
decorated.
Right. You have all of that, but it's manufactured elsewhere because it's more cost effective.
Right.
To me, that's the solution to the problem right there. And if you have clients who are, I need made in the USA product, and sometimes that is really difficult to find, then you have a little bit of a high ground to stand on. Hey, it's not manufactured here. It's not at all manufactured, but it was designed in the United States. It's decorated in the United States. So the value is here in the United States. It is manufactured overseas because, frankly, it's more cost effective to do so. You wouldn't be able to, this wouldn't fit in your budget if it wasn't manufactured overseas. To me, there's the entire narrative right there.
Yeah. But I think we need, as an industry, to start telling that story consistently across companies.
Agreed.
And so I think that's the challenge. Because I'll be honest, I mean, like, I probably had that conversation, but I don't know that I've done it consistently. And the reality of it is, the people who are asking for, and in my experience, the people who are saying, hey, I want a made in USA product, a lot of times are union based.
It's gotta be.
Yeah. And so now, could you, like, and I don't know the answer to this, but are there union shops around the country that do both, right? So that it could be designed and decorated in Kansas City, manufactured in China or Taiwan or wherever, but it's a union shop doing the decoration. That might help. So I think it's about creating that common language.
Life is about gray areas. I just thought this was a very interesting topic. Yes, I mean, obviously you rip out one label and put in a false label. That's very black and white. You should be fined. Yeah. But I do think that a lot of companies do try to skirt the whole made in the USA issue with, hey, we add value in the United States. That's where the value of this as a piece of marketing is. So you might be a poly bag that says, just decorated in the USA. And I'm not sure enough. I think that's kind of gets a little wonky.
Well, and I think what you talked about there, though, is the transparency thing, because you said they dance around the issue. Yeah, don't do that. Don't do that. Right?
Be upfront.
Yeah.
All right, Kirby. Good topic. You have another one for us?
Yeah, and again, I'll stay in the industry, and
wow, 3 industry topics. You are getting 3 times the promo upfront, people.
Yeah, that's right. And it really actually kind of ties. What made me think about it was the Tri-Mountain thing, right? That multi-line reps that I know were affected. But on my morning walk this morning, I was like, well, because when that happens, and I think when you have friends who live in that multi-line space, the first thing you do is you go, ooh, what other lines should they pick up? Right. And, for like Tri-Mountain was a pretty big line. So that might, this might not make sense. But then I started spinning it the other way and going, okay, when does a smaller supplier, because again, I think the biggest suppliers often have direct reps. They have supplier reps that work, factory reps. Thank you. Now some of them have a mixture, right? But then I was thinking of smaller suppliers who are new to the industry and they're doing their best to sell their product and make their product, whatever.
Sure.
You've worked with folks like this. So I kind of wanted your take on this. As a smaller supplier, when is the right time to look at hiring a multi-line rep? Because I think that for many, now maybe some of the smaller reps are like, or smaller suppliers are like, you know what, I'm jumping right to having a rep. I think that's challenging because they just can't get all across the nation at first, and they're going to have a smaller budget. So there's some real value in having multi-line reps that are already, you know, they're being paid by a bunch of suppliers, so they have the ability to stretch that budget a little further. So when is it? It's like when, and this might be a really tough question. Yeah. So, but it's like, when is the time where you're like, oh, well, okay, when can I do it? And then I guess the second follow-up question is, how do you pick what multi-line reps you go with?
That's a better question, I think.
Yeah, I think
the when, I think the when, Kirby, is when it feels like you're scrambling all the time. And I think we've all felt that as entrepreneurs, where, you know, I wear 18 different hats a day. I know you do. A lot of people do in the industry. And when you can start, when you're doing everything, there comes to a point where some things start falling through the cracks.
Sure.
It could be invoicing. It could be marketing. It could be quality assurance. It could be shipping. It could be a million different. It could be sales. Sales, to me, because of the model in our industry, is the first thing I would look to offload as a supplier. And then that leads in your second question. So to me, the answer is, as soon as it's economically feasible, with a structure of commission that you can live with, as soon as you can do it, I would do it. As far as targeting, you know, who would you want? I don't think it's actually like a specific, you know, you need to pick the Ben Norris group down in Texas with Ben Norris and Kelsey Cunningham, or you need to pick the McGoverns up in Ohio or whatever. I don't think it's that. What I think it is, you look at what lines multi-line reps are carrying. Let's say Chris Dollar. What lines is Chris carrying? Does my line, first of all, is even remotely competing?
Yeah.
Second of all, how many lines does this person have? Are they going to have time to even talk about this?
Yep.
And then if you feel like, okay, there's no competing lines, and I think they have room for me.
Yeah.
Then to me, it's have a conversation with them. How does this fit in with your structure? Yeah. You know, one of the challenges I remember back when, and they're still a hot company, but when they were white hot, when Org Audio was laser white hot, the multi-line reps who carried Org Audio, their other lines absolutely suffered because they spent the majority of their time talking about the hottest supplier in the industry, which I would too, you would, any of us would.
Sure.
So you want to make sure that your line is going to get the representation that you're paying for. And I can't quantify that. You, as a supplier, have to you know, kind of figure out what that is.
Yeah, it was funny. I was thinking about this, and the when I was listening to, his name's Alex something. It was a YouTube video, and he was talking about his opportunity to grow. And he was at a big mastermind group, and people were giving him advice. And one of the pieces that his business was doing really well. And the guy leaned in and said, when it gets easy, you have to go hard. And I was like, that's really interesting.
Great advice.
Yeah, because so in my mind, it's like, okay, when that supplier, it's like, okay, we're doing really well. So it's time to go hard. That would be the time to look at doing a multi-line rep, right?
Yeah.
And then the other piece is, I think reputation, it is, one of the ways that I would choose, because I think all the stuff you just said makes sense. So what I would add to it is to There are just great multi-line reps, just like anything
sure.
else. And then there are less than great.
Your mileage may vary.
Yeah. So to me, it would be like, okay, if I were making that leap, I'd be looking at it and going, okay, who are the clients that I want to reach? Who's that ideal target customer? And then I'd call them and go, who are the best multi-line reps?
Right.
Who are the people that serve you the best? And that's where I would start.
Well, and you interview them like you would a salesperson.
Yeah.
What does this look like to you? If we added, if I wanted you to sell my line, what does that look like to you? How would you present it? And then you have to also figure out how you're going to train that person. What tools are you going to give the multi-line rep to make sure that they have everything they need to sell your product? Because here's the thing. If you're not providing them any tools, there's not much they can do. And so
sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you, but to your point, the one thing I would say, and this is being on the receiving end, as a distributor, when you're a new line, that is when multi-line reps most want to talk about you.
100%.
Right? Like they come in, they go, I got a new line. I can't wait to show you. And when they go, I don't have any samples yet, and I don't know, I don't have flyers yet. It's like,
but they're really good.
Opportunity. Yeah, what a wasted opportunity. So if you're gonna do it, make sure that they have the tools to really sell you.
And I would start small. I'd pick a region like what you're talking about, 2 or 3 state, one multi-line rep or rep group that has 1 state, 2 states, and they have good relationships. You interview them and see how it goes and grow from there. You got to walk before you can run. All right, Kirby, do we have time for one more or no?
Yeah, sure. We'll do a quick one.
All right. My favorite topic, TikTok, Kirby.
Okay.
So TikTok is going to overtake Facebook in influencer marketing spend this year. That was interesting. Yeah, and it's going to take over YouTube by 2024.
Okay.
So it's really about
predicting about tech through 2024 is bullshit. So I'll believe it when I get to 2024. Not saying it can't happen, but will it take over something this year? Okay, I'll buy that.
Making predictions about tech for next Thursday makes no sense. So
sorry, I didn't mean to.
All right. No, it's okay. So it's really about nano and micro influencers, not the big people. So they define nano influencers as individuals with 1,000 to 5,000 followers, and micro is 5,000 to 20,000 followers. Okay. The data shows that marketing spend on smaller influencer partnerships have been really growing quickly. Nano influence spending is to rise 220% this year, while spending on mega influencers, which are 1 million followers and more, is only going to grow 8%. Very interesting numbers there. So marketers are also prefer working with smaller creators because the rates are lower, but their posts have much higher engagement rates. We've seen this happen in promo. When we launched Brand of 8, that was a big influencer campaign. We've seen it with Promotions East. You just had Rachel Levin on talking about that. We're doing it right now with Promocations, right? So you're hopefully still there. So there's some days you can't turn on Facebook or Instagram without seeing Promocations, which is great. But even with the inflated account views on TikToks and fake counts, so that's the problem. About 20% of those influencers are fake because just they have so many fake accounts.
Okay.
The question I want to ask you, one Kirby Hasseman of Coshocton, Ohio, is influencer marketing here to stay? Or is it something that's more of a fad that's going to have a shelf life?
No, I think it's of course it's here to stay. And what's funny to me is it's always been here. Like we've changed the platform. Right? Like influencer marketing existed in the 50s when my grandma went to the butcher shop. She was an influencer in her community, right? Like now the numbers have gotten bigger. It's evolved.
And the vehicles have changed.
And the platforms have changed. Exactly. So no, it's not a fad. Of course it's not. And I actually get excited because I think it's something that you and I've talked about for years is everybody wants a Kardashian to push their product. But the reality of it is someone with 5,000 to 10,000 followers that really have great follow. That's a lot. That's a lot of people. When Seth Godin is saying that you need a minimum viable audience of 1,000 customers, like those kinds of influencers have really big impact. And so I'm excited to see that trend. I think that makes a ton of sense. And I think it's showing the trend that small businesses are starting to jump on this. Because if you're Coca-Cola, sure, you don't want Seth Smith in Hoboken as an influencer, maybe. But if you are a clothing shop that is just, trying to bounce, I think those kind of influencers can make a huge impact. So I think that's really smart, and I think it's great.
And we want to apologize to Seth Smith of Hoboken. I'm sure the people at Coca-Cola would love to have you enjoy their popular beverage. But besides that, I agree. Influencer marketing has always been here, whether it's a celebrity endorsement, an old school commercial of, a celebrity endorsement still is influencer marketing.
Yeah,
the biggest influencer marketing success story is when Frank Sinatra in the 50s said his favorite whiskey was Jack Daniels. Before that, Jack Daniels was a regional brand. It was looked down upon. But then when Frank Sinatra, the most popular singer in the world, said that his favorite whiskey and his favorite drink was Jack Daniels, that became a movement. That's influencer marketing. And so it's going to evolve. It is not a fad. It's going to evolve in terms of, how we're doing it today is not how it's going to be in a year. And I don't think any of us can predict that any more than we can predict future in tech. But I'll tell you what we can predict, Kirby, that the good people at Shepenko, good people at Shepenko, not only have they been here for 4 generations, they're going to be here for a lot longer, because they absolutely know that's how relationships are built, because they have had that wonderful, wonderful success story of 4 generations. They've been around since 1933. And, you don't say in business long, if you don't do things the right way, and they do things the right way. They do what they say all the time, deliver quality merchandise, go the extra mile for their distributor partners. And they truly care about the success of their clients. So you want to learn more, head over to shepenko.com. You're not going to be sorry you did. Kirby, did you have one last thing to say before we close off this podcast? Because I just went into the ad without even asking you.
Oh, no. All I can say is that I am excited each week to do this with you. So thanks for putting up with me.
It's my pleasure, and I hope both of our listeners enjoy the podcast today.